Okay, and then with that, we can start. So welcome everybody. This is the first 5Growth Standard Vertical Advisory Board meeting. The idea of the outline of today, which I try to keep it short, is to basically remember and define the scope of this body in the project. Before we will start with a round of introduction, just after the outline. Then we'll go into a very short introduction of to the project by me, and then Xi Li, which is the technical manager of the project, will go into a more detailed, but still a summary description of the project, the architecture, and brief overview of the innovations and the main achievements so far, and try to keep at least 20 minutes at the end for you guys to provide some feedback, which is the main goal of this meeting. So I would like to, before we revise the scope of what is this Standard Vertical Industry Advisory Board, to introduce ourselves. So I'm Carlos Bernardos, I work at UCCM and I'm the project coordinator of 5Growth. Then maybe Chi, you can introduce yourself, and then we pass the floor to the members of the advisory board.
Yeah, hi, hello. This is Xi Li. So I'm working for NEC Germany in Heidelberg. So I'm the technical manager of the project. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Okay, so maybe we can then go to the members of the advisory board. So Juan Carlos, you can go first.
Yes, hi everyone. Thanks, Carlos. My name is Juan Carlos Zúñiga, and I'm with Sigfox, which is an IoT global operator with presence not only in Europe but also elsewhere in the world, 70 countries. And we basically connect objects for industrial purposes to the internet. And this is mainly for low power wide area networks. So my perspective here is as a network operator with focus on Internet of Things.
Okay, thank you very much. Carlos Romero. Carlos, you are muted. You can please introduce yourself. Sorry, Carlos, we cannot hear you. Carlos, you are muted. I don't know if you are trying to speak now, but we cannot hear you. Well, meanwhile, maybe Enrique, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm Enrique Domínguez Tijero. I work in GMB for more than, I've been working for GMB for more than 20 years in the GNSS department. We are specialists, experts in positioning. And currently I'm working in projects we are working in GNSS are related with this is automated vehicles and autonomous vehicles and 5G positioning. Well, besides that, we are also working in EGNOS and Galileo, and we have PPP positioning. We are experts in the positioning and providing integrity to the position estimation. And regarding 5G, well, it's also applicable to
that. Okay, thank you very much. Carlos Romero, I don't know if you can hear. Yeah, yes, I think you're not unmuted.
Yeah, Carlos. Yeah, okay. I think it works now.
Good
afternoon. My name is Carlos Romero. I'm Director of Innovation at a public company in Spain called Segitur. It is a company specialized on the travel sector and new technologies and innovation. We are part of the Ministry of Tourism, and we are specialized on everything related with digital promotion. We have been also involved in several projects, and also since last year we've been part of the travel vertical of the project 5G EVIAB, trying to apply 5G technologies in the tourism sector.
Okay, thank you very much, Carlos. And we also have here in the call Work Package 2 leader of the project, which is Andres. Andres, you can introduce yourself.
Yes, hello, my name is Andres Garcia. I also work for NEC. I'm a colleague of C. And I'm one of the leaders of one of the technical work packages in 5Growth project.
Okay, thank you very much. So then we can basically revise very quickly what is the external vertical industry advisory board about, because some of you guys were involved or were contacted in at the proposal stage phase, and you agreed to be part of this, and some additional ones have been added during the project execution. So this board is basically a non-binding technical advice board that is expected to basically to provide advice from your point of view of your vertical industries or your industry side of the stuff that we are doing in the project in 5Growth. So we have tried to basically choose industries or sectors that are not represented in the project, that are experts in the field, that could provide good input for us on things that we are not directly addressing, because these sectors are not directly involved as partners in the project. So the idea that this is very informal. So we are going to be sharing public information that is available on the website. So the idea is that we will try to identify or to summarize the main things, the key things, and then you can feel free to provide us as any feedback as you have, because all feedback will be very useful for us. The idea is to keep this something that we do like a couple of times per year, something like that. So no more than this, like having a couple of yearly calls of 1 hour, and that you provide the feedback by basically talking to us, making questions, and then we will try to address the questions, to take into account the input that you have, and if required, to do a follow-up on any of the actions that you may suggest or advise us to take. So we have been doing this in previous projects in the past. Actually, Juan Carlos, you were part of something similar in a previous project, and that proved to be very, very, very useful for the project. So we believe that this kind of tool is very, very good for us. So again, thank you very much for being part of this. We really appreciate this. So then I will go to a very short introduction of the project, because then she will go into more detail. So the idea of this project is basically to validate 5G technology from Vertical's point of view in kind of real scenarios. So field trials covering 4 vertical sites, so 4 pilots, 4 locations, and we will see 2 in Portugal, 1 in Italy, and 1 in Spain, covering 3 industry verticals. So this is a 5G PPP phase 3 project. So basically leveraging or using results from phase 2 projects like Transformer. 5G Transformer was a project that some of the partners, like 2/3 of the partners of these projects, were involved, and we are reducing a lot and evolving a lot that was done in that project. And also is using and enhancing 2 what is called ICT 17 projects that are 5G end-to-end platforms. 5G was already mentioned here, and 5G BIM is the other one. So there are two platforms in Europe that are used to provide a platform for doing 5G end-to-end tests. As I mentioned, there are 4 pilots in 4 vertical industries, which are at the end of the day are 3, because 2 of them are representing Industry 4.0. So we have 2 sites, 1 in Spain and 1 in Italy, representing Industry 4.0, and then we have 2 more in Portugal representing transportation and energy. The consortium is formed by 21 partners. We have as verticals INNOVALIA in Spain, EFASEC Engineering and Systems in Portugal, and Comau in Italy. Then we have different operators, Telecom Italia, Telefónica, and Altis Labs, vendors like NEC, Ericsson, Spain, Italy, Nokia, and ADCC, and several SMEs, research centers, and universities. And with that, we try to cover these 4 industries, these 4 vertical industries, and try to perform real field trials involving customer sites. So it's not going to be in real production environments, but very close to real production environments, trying to learn from the development and use of 5G there, and also try to bring new innovations that, based on the use cases of those verticals, we believe that are required and that are not yet fully developed in the 5G technology. This slide that you will see in your screen is trying to summarize the architecture of 5Growth, but she will go into that and try to also already hint or pinpoint some innovations that we believe are required in each of the components of the 5Growth architecture. We will see 5Growth architecture is composed of a kind of resource layer at the bottom. Then we have an orchestration layer, and then we have like the API to the actual vertical industries, the customers, which is what we call the vertical slice. All these components come from the 5G transformer architecture, and we will see how we are evolving those in order to tackle the innovations required in 5Growth. So this is what I wanted to do as a very short summary of the project. And then I would like to give the floor to Chi. So let me pass you the role, Chi, and then you can present. And let's try to be brief, like because we want to have feedback from the members of the advisory board. But please feel free to start your presentation.
I hope you're able to see it. Right, make it bigger.
Maybe try to make it bigger. Probably it's better.
Now?
Okay, now it's better. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, I think I have like around 25 minutes. I hope I try to make it brief enough and also make you understand what we are doing in the project. So so the first introduction, I think, has been given by Carlos. I will not repeat this part of information. So I will jump firstly directly to the architecture. So as mentioned by Carlos, in this project, we are mainly leveraging on the platform we developed in the phase 2 project called Transformer. So in this project, we have developed a software stack, which is used to managing and orchestrating the services for the verticals, to provide also the interface for the vertical to define the services, and with this platform, and we can automatically instantiate and managing the service and including their life cycles. So on top of the platform we developed in this transformer, so we are actually introducing new features and enhance the capabilities in order to provide even better support for the vertical in 5G growth projects. So so in the architecture level, we actually have 3 layers, which we call the vertical slicer, the orchestrator, and the resource layer. So as you see, basically, if I to make it easy for you to understand, so that's on the right hand side of the slides, I show more like a workflow about how the vertical define and request the services. So on the top, so mainly the vertical as the customer, they will through the northbound, meaning the interface our platform provides, they can define what they would like to deploy for their customers. So this is us. They will specify a service request, and we with this interface we are able to provide a set of catalogs we call blueprints, and then with this we can define the what kind of component of services and how is the requirement for the SLAs for the verticals, and this kind of thing will be included in this descriptor. And then this is through this northbound of the interfaces, basically the top layer we call the vertical slicer is able to process this request. This processing means they will put this kind of requirement for the vertical, which are mainly business oriented requirements, and to translate them to narrow services related requirements. So there will be some translation and mapping functionality to handle this to translate the business requirement to the network requirements. And in this case, we are mapping to technology like the network services defined in the SC and FE. And we are following mainly the standard using their network service descriptor to be the template for our network slice. So in this case, each of the vertical requests or services, they will map to one of the network slice or multiple network slices. And the slice will be deployed in the technical term is the NV defined network services. So this is what the role of the vertical slicer layer is doing. And then the second layer is the orchestrator, so which is mainly handling the network services related functions and the lifecycle management, including instantiating a service to update, modify, or terminate. And when we modify and update the service, we're also handling any scaling functions. So meaning if the service requests to be scale up or down or in or out of functionality, this is also what the part of the operation we are handling at the orchestrator level. And then also the orchestrator is also handling about if we have a vertical service which is composed of a set of services in our mapping to network services will be a set of function via virtual network function and chain together. And then we also need to decide where this function will be placed depending on the underlying infrastructure and their available resources. So the orchestrator is mainly making such a decision based on the exposed infrastructure abstraction provided by the resource layer. So on the lowest layer is what we call the resource layer, and this is mainly handling any physical infrastructure and resources. So on the one hand, it will expose any abstraction and to provide to the orchestrator an aggregated view about the infrastructure, which can be heterogeneous of different via or wireless infrastructure, also including cloud infrastructure and then the traditional network infrastructure, and also it handle as well the connection between the different data centers. So this aggregated view will be provided by the resource layer, and on the other hand, it also need to doing the actual mapping to the physical infrastructure. So meaning each of the vertical requests of vertical services, they will map to the network services on a orchestrator level, and then it's on a virtual infrastructure, and then the resource layer also need to translate or map this virtual infrastructure to the physical infrastructure. And in this case, so we have to handle about also where to place certain function in a physical infrastructure, also handling some of the services or from different verticals, they may be are sharing a same physical infrastructure. So this kind of management will be handled at a resource layer. So I'm not sure whether I'm a bit quick, or if you have any question, you can stop me or ask me directly.
Hi, Yashin. Would you like to have the questions in the middle or at the end?
I think I would prefer just in the middle. So if you have a question now, you can ask me.
Okay, sure, thanks. I understand the architecture. What is probably not so clear right now to me is what is the extent of the scope of this project with respect to transformer and X-Hall? Meaning like, what are the responsibilities of this project compared to what has already been done in this architecture?
Okay, yeah, so this is as you write on the baseline architecture has been built in transformer. This kind of layer has been there, but what we are going to do in growth is we are going to define a set of innovations which to enhance the capability of the platform. So which I actually would like, I will actually going to introduce in the next slides. in the following part, I will mention the innovation we're doing. So to summarize, we are going to, based on this architecture, we are mainly, there are several enhancements. One is about the closed loop management. We are going to enhance, and in Transformer, we are mainly doing just like a one-time instantiation, but we didn't have the loop to continuously so we didn't have a complete loop to control the services. So this is one thing we would like to enhance. The other part is we would like to more using AI machine learning approach or tools to enhance the automation of the network management. So mainly use AI machine learning, we can try to predict, or we can try to make a smarter decision, and to make the orchestration even faster and smarter. And on the other part, we would like to enhance the vertical support. So as I mentioned, we have some interface to provide already in Transformer to provide to the vertical to define services, but in 5Growth we are going to extend the support in case of we would like to provide more vertical oriented monitoring, meaning if they have some application or some special monitoring for their applications, that we can also define in our stack to extend the information model in the architecture level to let the system to be able to handle this kind of monitoring data, and also allow the vertical to define where to monitor them. So to define where the props of the monitoring, where to place them, and how to monitor them. So and the other part is also we would like to extend some support for the RAM. So in Transformer, we are mainly focusing on we have some preliminary RAM work, but in Growth we are going to also extend the support for the RAM through the whole architecture level. So just a very brief summary, but I can mention more in the innovation part.
So just one last question before moving on. I understand the extension and the additions of the project, and how about the integration between Transformer and X-Hall? Is that already being done, or are you also taking care of integrating the work that they already did?
Sorry, integration between with whom? Sorry,
Transformer and X-Hall.
Transformer, I mean, we are not integrating Transformer. I mean, the stack, we are going to mainly like based on Transformer's platform, we are going to extend the capability, and then we are integrating with EVIAB and VINI for the vertical pilots. So we are discussing one of the innovation we are developing is how we on these 3 layers, how we can interfacing or with the EVIAB and VINI infrastructure or with their platform.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that probably what Juan Carlos meant was that Cross-Hall was like the phase 1 project that Transformer. Because Cross-Hall at the beginning was called S-Hall, right? 5G S-Hall, 5G Cross-Hall. So I guess is the problem with the naming. So 5G Transformer kind of evolved or leveraged on some of the things that were done in 5G Cross-Hall. That was the original S-Hall. And then in 5Growth, we are evolving this 5G Transformer architecture, adding other stuff and also doing all the field trial validation that we plan to do in the field sites.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I maybe didn't get your question. Yes, Carlos mentioned answer that. So yes, the Cross-Hall, what we call 5G Cross-Hall project, which is the phase 1, which actually focusing only on the resource layer. So if you see so mainly on the lowest layer. So there we are mainly developing the data plane and control plane solution on the infrastructure, and in Transformer we are building the vertex slicer and accelerator on top to managing to managing infrastructure for the different vertical services. So and then 5G Growth is on top of those phase 1 and phase 2, so Cross-Hall and Transformer to even enhance the capability and also to focus on the pilots.
Okay, thank you. That makes it clear.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't understand your question from the beginning. Okay, so then if no more question, I will move on. So yeah, this is mainly try to mention in the scope of 5Growth, we are also dealing about federation. So meaning in terms of federation, we also leveraging on the solution we have already from transformer, which only federate on the solid data level. But in growth, we also are evaluation about the federation at the vertical slicer level to enable the vertical on the one hand to interact with, for example, ICT 17 platform in terms of 5G. And on the other hand, we also opening new business model to allow the service communication service provider also to able to request the subset of the services to be deployed by the other operators. So that's the also one additional innovation we are developing in the project to have different layers of federation to allow more different business models. Okay, so that's so far for the architecture. So the following part will introduce the innovations. So this slide, I think Carlos already mentioned. So the main vision of our of 5Growth is to empower all this vertical industry, focusing on AI-based automation, and also to enhance the sharing by improving our slicing solutions end to end. So the outcome actually from the innovation will have two parts. First part will be like we will have based on, basically based on the transformer platform, we are going to have a develop a 5G growth platform, which is also a software stack, which is will be just used to create and provision and managing the vertical services, and with the help of the AI and machine learning, which is the new part in 5G growth. And then the second outcome will be also to reworking on how we interact or integrate with ICT 17 platform with the interaction with the 5G and 5G Mini. And there we are discussing different integration options. In the architecture level, we can, for example, for the 5G EVE, we may integrate with the EVE platform on the vertical slicer level. And then with the Vini, they are mainly providing the API on the network services level. Therefore, the integration will happening to the also on the vertical slicer layer, but this will be on the network service level. So this is also one of the ongoing work we are developing in one of the work packages. So, okay, so the in total, this is actually the main work in Workpack 2 in the project. In this workpack, we are mainly developing the new innovation based on the transformer platform. And in total, we are defining 3 different clusters of innovations. So this including architecture level, algorithm level, and framework level. And then the features are mainly developing actually for each of the layer. We will have a new enhanced feature. For example, at the vertical slicer level, we are going to work to make more dynamic service composition and to have a more smarter arbitration of services, meaning if one vertical have different set of vertical services and with a certain priority, and they have some kind of budget for the resources, then we have an entity to called arbitrator to handle how to handle the different priority of services and scaling actions. So this is part of the basic work has been done in transformer, and in growth we are going to enhance the capability of the arbitrator also with AI machine learning to have some of the prediction of the traffic demand or service demand to make even better decisions. And also we are like to have some innovation to extend the support for RAM for the narrow slicing, meaning we want to enhance when the vertical define their services, also can including some their requirement for the RAM. So this will be meaning to extend the information model and require their functionality to support RAM through the whole stack. On the substrate level, we would like to have innovation focusing on how to enhance the orchestration decision, have capability of auto service scaling, and also anomaly detection. In the resource layer, we are also looking at how we extend to the next generation RAM, also looking at the ORAM standardization, and also try to also enhance also on the infrastructure level how we can also enhance the resource management and also the isolation among the different resources for providing better services for the verticals. In addition, we also have a monitoring system, which is also based on transformer. We also develop a monitoring platform, and leveraging on that, we also are going to enhance the monitoring platform to enable it to provide monitoring data for all different 3 layers, also to give more support for vertical oriented monitoring. So among the among these 4 different clusters, so we have on the architecture level, we would like to the innovation will be trying to do the vertical support in terms of to have better RAM support as well as the monitoring for the vertical services. And we also have innovation to working on how to orchestrate the monitoring props. And then also we another innovation is about the control and management in terms of how to provide a closed loop control of the services. This can be also on substrate level, also can be on the resource layer, and also with the AI machine learning. So we are discussing about developing an AI machine learning platform, which is to be used to provide models and libraries for different algorithms in different layers to use for making our smarter decisions. And last, we also have innovation to focusing on how to provide end-to-end orchestration. This will also extend to the MAC as well to the RAM segments. Then we have for the algorithm side, we also developing some innovation, try to have a smarter orchestration and control algorithm. And then we also looking at the anomaly detection and forecasting inference. At last, there will be innovation focusing on the framework, which is looking at the security. So meaning how to provide some security, especially for example in case of federation, or in case of how to detect some possible, some hacks. So there will be also one innovation to looking at this aspect. And then we also have one innovation to enhance the platform development for the continuous integration and continuous development cycle, and also to have a more containerization to enhance our platform. So based on the Kubernetes solution. So this is the very high level summary of the direction of our innovations. So I'm not sure you have any questions here, or maybe whether Andres have more additional remarks and comments on this part, because he's the WordPatch 2 leader. So he's the one leading all these innovations.
No, I think you explained it splendidly. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so if you don't have no more question, I will move on. So the next part is about the vertical pilots. As mentioned by Carlos, so in the project we have 4 pilots across 4 different vertical sites. In total, we have 9 use cases. So we have 2 Industry 4.0 pilot, one from Innovalia, the other from Kamal. So Innovalia is from in Spain, and Kamal is located in Italy. And then in addition to the Industry 4.0, we also have transportation and energy pilots. So both transportation and energy pilot are from Portugal. So these are the 9 defined use cases. So I think due to time, I will not be able to give you explanation for all the use cases, but I will, in the following slide, will give you one example of the Innovalia Industry 4.0 use cases. Okay. Here is summarizing about the requirements of all the vertical pilots. So these are the tables. They provide some initial requirement on the technical KPI in terms of like latency, availability, bandwidth, and mobility, and so on. So this is per each of the pilot, they will define their individual requirement, and this is the requirement actually the platform, the 5G growth platform, need to fulfill at the end. So we need to validate at the end all the KPI we can meet, and at least need to fulfill the requirements specified by the different vertical services. So here the figure I just tried to highlight that all these vertical services are looking at different kind of type of requirements. And in summary, if we are taking the 3PP slice type, so we usually will have a mobile broadband and ultra low latency and massive machine type communication. So when mapping to the 3GPP slice type, so here's the kind of category about the requirement about all the 9 use cases from these 4 different pilots. So as you can see in our project, most of the use cases will be looking at the broadband. So have a broadband requirement to have a high data rate or capacity requirement. Also at the same time, also to meet the low latency requirement in terms of the IoT. Also for Industry 4.0, they have like a latency requirement, like for example below 5 milliseconds. And also in the energy and transportation use cases, they also have very critical requirement to meet the for example the transportation need to meet the security standard of the chain, and also for energy they have requirement to for the sensors to get the monitor data in less than 5 milliseconds. So sure, we also have some use cases looking at the massive machine type. So have a lot of you also have a requirement on the density or the density of the device in one area, but most of the use cases you see, I'm focusing on the bandwidth requirement and the latency requirements. In terms of business.
Sí, sorry yes. To interrupt you. Sí, so yeah. No. Go to the next slide. I just wanted to ask, since we started a bit late and we are, I mean, we wanted to keep this under 1 hour. I just want to ask Juan Carlos, Carlos and Enrique if they have like 10 more minutes after 5. So because we.
Yes, it's okay for me. No problem on my side.
Yes, it is okay for me.
Okay, so
also for me, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So then try to finish in like 5-6 minutes. I know it's a bit challenging because you have a lot of slides with details, but I think that maybe you can summarize the business KPIs and then go to one of the examples, and then I guess there is no problem if we share the slides with the members, so they have the material if they want to check offline. And then we allow for some at least 10 minutes for potential discussion with them. Is that fine with you, T?
Yeah, I will try my best.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, okay. Okay, so here is the business KPI. I will not also going to read them one by one, but basically is that in addition to technical KPI, in the project we also define a set of business KPI for the vertical service point of view, and this we also have one work package to handle how to validate the economic business KPIs and how to fulfill them as well. So yeah. So here I would like to give just one example of the Industry 4.0 pilot, which is the INNOVALIA case. For this pilot, the motivation is that in a factory, usually you will firstly when you configure machine, usually the current solution is always a worker or expert need to go to the place and then to configure the machine directly at site, and this is very costly, and especially if for example INNOVALIA has a customers in different cities in Spain or even other countries, so it's very costly to send an expert to the factory of the customers to fixing the machines. So that's one of the motivation. The second one is that in current factory, a lot of most of the devices are connected by wire network, so with cables. So these are also on the one hand very costly, on the second hand is very inflexible in terms of like if you have some ability of some operations, and then that will make this will make it not so efficient to work. A second part is that the as I mentioned, that we would like to also to remove the cable to provide a wireless kind of solution for the factory. And in that case, the 5G is the choice for us to deploy and for this pilot. Okay, and let's move. Okay, so this is one of the use cases called connected worker operation of quality equipment. In this case, it's one scenario that's so for example, you have two facility. One is the facility is the factory, the production line, and the other is another facility which can be in the same place or can be a remote, so in a different building or even different city. So and then there will be a person, a worker are configuring that remotely. And in this kind of scenario, they will require like from the production line of the factory, they will have some video to provide the video of the how the machine is working, and then the worker can control basically the machine remotely with a virtual joystick. So in this case, we will have two slides. One is the using the broadband requirement to provide the video streaming about how the machine is, and then there's another slide which is the low latency requirement, which is allow the worker to use the joystick to configure or operate the machine remotely. So this has a very low latency requirement. And on the video part, they will require like a 4K video, required bandwidth around 10 megabit per second. And on the low latency slides, they will require like a latency less than 5 milliseconds, and then the reliability should be 99.99%. So in this pilot, there will be a vertical is INNOVALIA, operator is Telefonica, and we also have Ericsson to provide all the hardware and software, meaning the 5G base station also related the software to configure the communication. And also we have InterDigital, which is to provide video streaming services for this pilot. And then also we have additional operation support provider, which is Telecarrier. Yeah, so in this kind of pilot, so with the 5G communication, we on the one hand we place the wireline communication with the wireless to make the communication more flexible, also with a high data rate, and also with the remote So this pilot enable the worker can remotely operate and configure the machine which in the factory. So this is the solution we provide to enable the remote operation. So this is the first use cases. So I think I would like to skip the second use cases example. I'm sorry, I don't know what my slides always frozen. I need to go here. So I would like to skip this, but if you have question later after reading the slide, we can also discuss. So maybe I will jump with the time. I will first just jump to the project status to summarize what we have done so far in the project. I'm not sure about whether you're aware about our work package structure. So basically, we have in total 6 work packages. The work package 1 is mainly to define the business requirement about the use cases, about the KPI in terms of technical KPI as well as the business KPI. And then also to provide the validation of the business model. So this is the work package 1. And work package 2, as I mentioned, they are mainly focused on develop a set of innovation. In total, we have 12 innovation to be developed on top of the transformer platform, and at the end we are delivering a 5G growth platform. So this is work package 2. And work package 3 is mainly about how to integrate the solution we developed in work package 2 and innovation, and also how we integrate with the ICT17 platform, meaning for 5G and 5G VNI, and then to have an integrated solution and customized for each of the pilots. So in this case, we have for each pilot, they will do the individual implementation and integration for setting up in the vertical sites to be prepared for validation. And in work package 4, it's mainly about focusing on validation and evaluation. So the main words to define some methodologies, also defining what's the service KPI and technical KPI, how to validate them, and how at the end how we evaluate them. So this is the work package 4. Work package 5 is about the communication and dissemination, and work package 6 is the project management. So this is the overview of the work package structure. And where we are now is showing here. So we are now in month 11. So we started project in June last year. So far we have like almost 1 year. And then what I highlight here is what we have already passed in the project. Right now, we are delivering the first implementation of the 5G growth platform with a set of selected innovations. And we also are focusing on how we specify the in-house deployment of all the different vertical pilot and for their use cases. So these are the 2 main milestones for the moment. So I'm not sure, Carlos, I can still have some time to finish this table. I can.
You can very briefly, like in 2 minutes, summarize a bit the status, but really 2 minutes, because otherwise we will run out of time.
Yeah, I think I can manage. So okay, so this is a table just try to summarize the current status of the project, and this also I take the objectives. So in total we have 5 objectives defined in the project, and this map into each of the work packages. So work package 1 is focusing about how to validate 5G growth business model. As I mentioned, in this case, the work package 1 already done the technical and functional requirement analysis for all the pilots, and also define or have an initial design of the business model, and looking at different stakeholders, including operator, vendor, the verticals, and then this kind of analysis has been reported in D1.1 delivered in September last year. Currently, this work package are focusing on the economic analysis and try to validate the business model. I mean, try to have a methodology to validate the business model. And this is a current ongoing work, and this plan to be delivered a month 15. And WordPipe 2 is on the objective about design and develop 5Growth extension, especially on focusing on the development of these 12 iterations. And in the first deliverable was done in November 2019, and there we already have an initial specification and design of this 5Growth platform, including all these 12 iterations. And as I mentioned, at the moment we are focusing on delivering the first release of the 5Growth platform implementation. This will be by end of next month. We are going to have the first version. In WordPress 3, they are focusing on the building, integrating of all the components of 5Growth to the different vertical pillars. So they have done the initial gap analysis about with the ICT 17 platform integration, and also have done some first analysis about different integration options with 5G and 5G and this analysis has been reported in the deliverable 3.1 and in October last year. Currently, we are working on specifying in the detail about how to do the in-house deployment of all different vertical pillars with the individual technical solutions. At the moment, due to the COVID-19 situation, some of the pillar, we cannot, due to the lockdown situation, we could not work directly in the vertical premises. Therefore, we also analyzing some of the potential impact, and this has been reported in deliverable 3.2 and actually will be delivered in few days. In WordPipe 4, the objective is to evaluate the technical and functional KPIs. At the moment, this WordPipe is mainly focusing on defining the core service, core KPI and the service KPI, and also analyzing how they are relation. And this work has been done and going to be delivered in next month. In the first deliverable of this work package. And then the WordPipe 5 is focusing on the dissemination and standardization and exploitation. So they already have one deliverable already given last year. And in currently we are working on the second deliverable, which will be next month. This planning, to report the first year achievement, also to have a plan for the next year. And currently, we also are discussing about some dissemination possible events which we may disseminate our solution. So before we have a plan for EUCNC and also Mobile World Congress at the beginning of this year, but due to the COVID-19, so we are not able to do the live demonstration. So we are also discussing currently some virtual workshops or organize some webinars for the project to have a way to disseminate our innovation and solutions. So yeah, that's all from my side. I hope for 2 minutes time. Yeah, if you have still some question, we can answer, or if not, we can also discuss this afterwards.
Just one quick one. I know we're running out of time, and this is not critical. I mean, we can keep it online or leave it for next. The first one is I guess in as part of the business KPIs, you also consider the time to set up services. Because that indirectly affects the end of business KPI. So that's the first one. And the second one, I would be interested in taking a look at the list of for the dissemination. What are the SDOs, standard organizations, and open source projects that you're planning to contribute? But again, for time, probably we can leave those.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, regarding the KPI, you're right. So we are evaluating those what you call probably the service deployment time. So we have one related KPI on that. I think this there will be more detail on the deliverable D4.1. And regarding dissemination, yeah, we are looking at different standard bodies. So like for example, 3GPP, SC. SMV, SCMAC, also IETF. So we have also ORAM that's related to the RAM part. So we have looking at different SDOs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. So, Carlos, Enrique, do you have any quick comment or question that you have now? As I mentioned, we will share the slides with you guys, so you can also make questions offline. But if you have any comment or question, that will be very appreciated. And also, if you maybe after this quick and intense diving into the 5Growth, you may think of how some of the stuff that we hinted we are doing or we introduced we are doing, because it was not possible to really go into all the details, of course, could apply to your verticals. That could be also very interesting, and maybe we can even set up another call or something if you find that useful. So I don't know, you want to do any quick comment or question at this point?
Yeah. On my side, this is Enrique. On my side, I don't have any specific question. I assume there are a lot of details that I would like to have a look to. The thing is, my only comment is that it seems to me very interesting because the use cases and the pilots you have defined also are have in common that the industry, this automated industry, or this automation incorporated into industry, is something interesting for us because in terms of positioning, there are challenges and things to be done there, and also the one that, because of time, hasn't been described in detail. The transportation one, it also contains things related with positioning, 5G positioning, and also how 5G can be complemented with GNSS positioning that is being incorporated, that has been incorporated in the releases of 3GPP. So, well, it's my only comment is that it seems to me very, very interesting, but I don't have any specific questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carlos, do you have any question or comment?
Oh, yes. Well, it has been very, very detailed. Thank you so much. It is very interesting. Well, we are working on our travel vertical with several potential users of this infrastructure from the side of the private sector and private companies of the travel sector, hotels, restaurants, cruise companies, passenger transport companies like airlines or coaches, and also public sector on the other side, like destination marketing organizations and museums and public bodies, and also from the point of view of the tourists and the travelers themselves, when they are trying to access to additional services while they are traveling. And we have been trying to identify for each one of those three groups of potential early adopters of those new 5G services, private sector, public sector, and tourists, some specific needs that they have from their side, in issues related with, for instance, massive communications in very specific moments of time, in big events, on the beach, at the airports, and in areas where we have a big concentration of travelers. Also, everything related with the growing level of content consumption in mobility while they are traveling in 8K and 4K videos, images, and high resolution videos. Also in issues related with security and emergencies, trying to guarantee and prioritize this kind of communications in case of emergency. In everything related with real tracking of travelers and visitors on a specific city, or at the port when a cruise line arrives. Everything related with the provision of information in mobility. In the case of tourism, also, we are very interested from the point of view of the needs of this sector in everything related with the way we could improve marketing location-based services towards the tourist. Everything related with in this kind of new normal post-COVID scenario related with the control of the social distance in some tourism resources and restaurants and hotel resorts. It is not about just controlling the massification, but controlling those social distances required to avoid any kind of contact with each other. Also in open spaces, on the beach, in swimming pools, these kind of things. Also in everything related with the multimodal movements of travelers. I mean, from the airline, the airport, the transfer to the taxi, to the train station, and so on. And how you could somehow guarantee a contactless ticket, or how could you guarantee the kind of exchange of information that they are having with the different travel service providers. Another interesting area has to do with automatic translation. This is an issue that we have been working with other projects, using those capabilities of 5G to automatic translation in real time, trying to minimize the delay in the conversation. Everything related with authentication, to have access to a certain to a room or a meeting room, or a travel company. Also everything related with the with 5G and Internet of Things, for instance, in tracking luggage, or these kind of things. And also, finally, everything related with augmented reality and mixed reality, and how we could adapt those new technologies in tourism services. No? So there are different possibilities of designing new services to attend those everyday more sophisticated needs of the travel companies and of the travelers, even more in this post-COVID that we will have to face, in which in the case of the travel sector we will have to guarantee a certain distances and certain controls and so on. So it was all I wanted to mention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Carlos. So I think that's pretty good input in terms of maybe use cases that we are not considering, that we could also see how our architecture, our project could help into that. So maybe we can also discuss offline on maybe if you have any pointer about specific requirements on the network side that you think a future network, future platform to provide connectivity and applications in those scenarios will need. Maybe we can take a look and see how 5Growth innovations could help into or could apply to some of these scenarios, use cases that you have in mind that are different from the vertical point of view of the ones that we are addressing.
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to thank you again for being here. As I mentioned at the beginning, well, I forgot to mention something important. That is that the project started running in June last year, and it's a 2.5 years project. So it's going to be on operation until November next year. So we are not yet in the first year of the project, so we have time to do new things and to take into account your feedback. So we'll try to take a look at your comments, and as I mentioned, if you have specific requirements or documents for specific requirements, we can take a look. And then in maybe in 3-4 months, I will call you for a new meeting after we have our main milestones, and we can discuss based on the new results, if that's fine with you guys. And again, will be like this 1 hour call, and hoping for getting good feedback at this time, and try to also follow up on the actions, on the comments that you mentioned this time.
Okay.
So
Okay, very good.
thank you very much, guys. Take care, and let's be in touch. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for the comment back.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.